Hey everyone.
What's up, guys?
Welcome to another sickly episode of Eigenbros. No, I'm just kidding. Today I'm dealing with allergies, so it's a little bit tricky. I might sound a little nasally.
Yeah, by the end of this podcast, Juan has a nice little tissue collection.
Oh, yeah. Sniffling is, you name it, everything. Curse mountain cedar, it's the worst, a.k.a. juniper. It's not for me.
Oh, juniper, that's what that is?
Juniper pollen, yeah, it's not for me. Anyway, Terence has the hiccups.
Yeah, I got the hiccups.
And so, what an interesting episode. The politics, the bane of... If you go back early episodes, you'll see exactly why we've refrained from talking about this. Because typically our conversations devolved into us.
Devolve into Trump?
Into just bashing politics and stuff.
But we didn't bash Trump in this one, really.
No, we did. We kind of tried to do a service to the listeners and try to maybe scope a couple candidates that are running for president in the Democratic primary. Mm-hmm. Singled out a couple of the people that Terence thought. Well, for one, Bernie, I think, is probably one of the more prominent ones. But you picked some of what Yang has been saying, and
Yang.
And you said Tom Steyer was a good one that you liked, and then Michael Bloomberg, which are all those last two I had no clue they were running. So that was
hopefully I can change some minds.
But yeah, nonetheless, we hope you guys stick around and
just make sure you guys, of course, like, subscribe, share, comment, and then also check out the website. Eigenbros.com. Check out at Eigenbros on Twitter. Check out at Eigenbros on Instagram. And then also check out the TikTok Eigenbros 2. And we will see you guys in a bit.
Yes.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special message from the ex-president Barack H. Obama. My fellow Americans, I just want to say thank you for listening to the Eigenbros. My favorite podcast, low key. I just want to say that the Eigenbros called me up. They said, "Hey, Barry, could you do a quick introduction, just like last year?" And I said, "Sure thing. Just let me know. Drop the pin. Send a location. I'm gonna pull up in that bullet coupe spaceship." And for that, I would just like to say, I want to thank the Eigenbros for discussing politics on today's show. It's a necessary thing, and they actually fucked up. I believe they didn't press record properly, so now I have to do this introduction. So thank you for your patience and a bad cut into the show. Thank you.
Potential candidates.
Yeah, but specifically we wanted to address the science issues with the
election.
The election.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be useful because,
how are you going to navigate this, guys?
Yeah, there's just...
How to navigate
no
this.
Scientists want to be politicians, so if you listen to this podcast, you're probably into the sciences and learning shit.
Yeah.
Right? So you probably don't want to deal with politics. Much like us, I've gotten more into it over the years, but it's always nice when someone else does the work for you to just show you some things that might be useful.
Yeah, and we have a lot of young listeners, actually, and shout out to them. A lot of 19-year-olds.
Yeah, this might be their first election.
This might be their first election.
Yeah.
And, hey, my first election was the Obama administration. That's when Obama came through.
I believe mine was too.
For me, that was my
kind of a crazy one.
Yeah. That was huge.
Yeah.
So you're welcome, America. You're welcome for us, my generation.
There goes all the Trump supporters unsubscribing.
Right. They're just bloop. Yeah, man. It's
not my president.
Not my president. He's born in Kenya. He's
Where the papers?
He's a gay Muslim.
Hussein says it all.
Hussein, who what? He's not even from America. That's what.
I don't know what that accent was supposed to be.
It's a Appalachian.
Oh.
It's a little bit, you would know. if you were from the Appalachia region.
I think it needs some tightening up.
It does. I mean, I can go Southern Landes.
Oh, there you go. The old Rusty from Futurama.
Yeah. Or I can go like, Arthur Morgan, Red Dead Redemption, just be like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
That still sounds like Rusty.
Obamacare just ruined my life. I can't even pay for my tuberculosis medicine. Now I'm dying and shit.
For the audience, me and Juan have been stuck on impressions for some reason. Before this podcast started, we've been trying to practice our best Bernie Sanders accents.
Yeah.
Hit him real quick with the Bernie Sanders.
The 1%. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, we just keep saying 1% over and over again.
That's my anchor. I'm holding on to that. That's my one thing that's keeping me in the accent. So now, actually, today we do want to talk about a couple candidates, and I guess we'll give you the rundown as to who we're looking at or focusing the discussion on.
Yeah,
and this might be a little sexist, actually. No,
a little sexy.
I'm kidding.
Don't forget Bernie's in that mix.
Yeah, don't remind me.
That beautiful body. Yeah. I want you to rub oils on me.
Your body's like a Coke bottle. No, I can't do it, man. That was.
Yeah, we're gonna have to practice Bernie more.
Forgive me. I'm just not gonna bother you. We'll see. Yeah. So we're gonna be talking about Bernie's stance on climate change, because a lot of the big things that are science focused are how AI is going to impact the economy. I think some climate change, and then some tax policy stuff. Now, don't be afraid. That stuff's probably going to come towards the end.
Okay.
And then some people that I think Terence wanted to highlight. Tom Steyer.
Yep.
That's Terence's pick. And
yes.
Then, including Michael Bloomberg, the dark horse.
That's another one of my picks.
Yeah, the real true dark horse of the race, where no one really thinks he has a chance. But Terence is still out here vouching for him.
I'm still hanging on.
Yeah, so if those guys have gotten less attention. If you look at some of the, how would you say, if you've kept up with some of the debates so far, right?
Yeah, well, they also came in way later. They only came in like within the last few months.
Yeah.
As opposed to most of the other candidates, they came, from the beginning. So these guys kind of like swept in. Tom Steyer and Bloomberg kind of just stepped in at the last minute.
Yeah, I mean,
both of them provoked by saying that they didn't like the candidates really that were running.
Yeah.
And I kind of agree.
Tom Steyer should come out with that what's that one band song? Not REO Speedwagon. What are they called? REM?
Oh, I don't know. What's their song?
No, it's like dee 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 dee. It's a Tom Sawyer, but
that's Rush.
Rush. Wow, I'm gonna be crucified in the comments. I'm sorry.
Tom Sawyer.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Today's Tom Sawyer. Mean.
That's the dudes who do YYZ. With the fucking crazy drum kit.
Yes, and he should come in with that song. Tom
that would be nice, huh?
That
would be sick, huh?
Naturally, hire me for your campaign, Tom. I'm available starting in May. These are going to be some of the people that they've done interviews, and we're just going to we're going to walk you through some of the clips, I guess, of their policies.
Yes.
Now, unfortunately, it's kind of hard to cram everybody in on this, but I think for me, I wanted to be able to just have something that we can talk about for an hour. I think that's mainly, at least.
What do you mean?
Like a discussion, like having enough to talk about it.
Yeah.
So again, for
wipe your nose too, Juan. You got a little bit of a
it's coming dripping.
Listen, I don't want to have the reflection hitting the folks in the audience.
I'm dripping. Yeah. I'm sorry, folks. I'm dripping. Not like a rapper.
Not in the good way. Not in that swagadocious way.
It's not. Yeah, exactly.
Probably going to be boomered out for that swagadocious comment.
Right. But yeah, maybe I got the coronavirus, dude.
Oh, fuck. Well, I guess I got it too then.
Ooh, no. I mean, I did have some. No, I was going to say
one of our fans was asking us if we were going to do the video on coronavirus, like literally maybe a few hours ago.
I'm going to say no.
No.
I'm going to say no only because I don't think it's going to have as big of an impact in America as it will in China.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think our infrastructure is just different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it gets to be a pandemic, then maybe we'll talk about it.
Yeah, by that point, we'll have to
live on the scene. We actually have the coronavirus.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I guess let's get started. I guess
let's do it.
So, first of all, we're starting with Bernie Sanders. So, Bernie, tell us, what's your take on climate change?
Yes, hold that mic up to the thing too.
Yeah, of course. I think climate change is fake. I think the 1% are making it up. They just don't want to pay a carbon tax.
And what the scientists are telling us, as I mentioned earlier, is that we have fewer than 12 years to transform our energy system, or else there will be irreparable damage done, not only to our country, but to the world. Now, climate change is not just an American issue. So we could do tomorrow, do all the right things, but if China and Russia and India and the rest of the Brazil and Africa does not do the right thing, we're not going to make the progress we need. So here is what we have to do, in my view. Number one, we have to tell the fossil fuel industry that their short-term profits, and they make a whole lot of money, their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet. I don't think that's a hard sell to make. You cannot keep producing a product which is destroying the planet in the United States and around the world.
So by saying that, you're saying we would have to move consciously away
Absolutely.
from fossil fuels.
No ifs, buts, and maybes.
And if we do that, how do you tell the fossil fuel companies, do you tell them you can't sell fossil fuels anymore?
There are a variety of ways to do that, but that is the bottom line. And by the way, in the midst of that, we do what we call is a just transition. The guy out on the oil rig today simply wants to feed his family, and the coal miners today want to feed their families. And we're not going to leave them. I'm a pro-worker. I have probably the strongest pro-worker record of any member of the Congress. So it is not my intention to throw these guys out and women out on the street and ignore the pain that they will go through. We are proposing billions of dollars to rebuild those communities and make sure that those guys and women get new jobs. So we're not just discarding people in the fossil fuel industry. But ultimately, the product that they are producing, which is now carbon emissions, is destroying the planet. So we have to move away from fossil fuel in a very bold way into energy efficiency. Right now, in my own state of Vermont and all over this country, there are buildings which are incredibly wasteful. We don't have the windows, we don't have the insulation, we don't have the roofing, the doors that we need to keep the buildings warm in the winter and cool in the summer. And we can create just an incredible number of jobs just retrofitting our buildings. Second of all, we need to move very aggressively to sustainable energies like wind and solar. In California, you're doing a good job with wind. Iowa's doing a good job. Texas doing a good job. We got to do much more. Solar, there is incredible potential out there. Price of solar has dropped in recent years. And we have got to not only transform the energy system in our own country, we got to lead the world in working with Russia and China. Because in this issue, we are in it together. And here's my dream, and this may be a utopian dream. The world right now is spending $1.5 trillion on weapons of destruction designed to kill each other. And maybe, just maybe, if we had a kind of leader, and I hope to be that leader, who says to the world, instead of spending $1.5 trillion killing each other, maybe we use those resources to transform the global energy system and save the planet for our kids and our grandchildren. That's the goal.
I think that's good enough.
So yeah, he's for, I guess, shifting around the budget so that spending more on infrastructure and stuff for green energy.
Yeah,
clean energy.
Yeah, let's unpack that a little bit. So I think his first point about trying to talk to the fossil fuel industries is kind of a weak proposition, because you can talk to your blue in the face with the fossil fuel industries. I mean, they're the reason why there's climate change denial in the first place, right? Like companies like Exxon and Shell and, these kind of gas, big CO2 producers are the ones that fund anti-climate change. What do you call it?
Legislation.
Propaganda and legislation. So it's like, that's a stupid plan to me. It sounds like a non-plan.
It's kind of silly. Yeah, it's a little bit silly. Just, but I think, I mean, I'm more aligned with certain economists about this thinking where we need to incentivize certain businesses to make the right decision. Like government can create incentives. They can't really force anybody to do anything. But we can push certain industries in a certain way, right?
Yeah.
Like you can tax them in a certain way where they're less likely to do certain things. For instance, polluting, right? You're obviously going to be fined heavily, more than likely. I mean, some businesses have, or some industries have economies of scale, meaning that they're so massive that they can afford more than the little guy to pay certain fines, right? And this happens all the time with like companies like Exxon or BP, where they have oil spills and they pay like a small percentage of their total annual revenue,
right? Because they don't really care.
And it's like the damage that has been done to the environment is so much more massive than a $2 billion fine.
Right.
It's like, come on, man.
Yeah, I kind of like. I think we've actually we did it. So for those who are unaware, we did a video on climate change a while back. I don't remember what episode number. Do you, Juan?
No.
Okay, but we kind of settled on the thought that there should be incentives for small businesses and people starting out who produce large amounts of CO2 in their business, in order for them to actually want to curtail their effects by getting government and subsidies and things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm not really a person who likes to put legislation on businesses as a tax. I don't really like taxing businesses because I think that's like a bad precedent, because now you're getting government involved in telling businesses what they can and can't do. But of course, if you're allowing a bunch of pollution and just go unchecked, that's one regulation you do need.
Yes.
But I just don't want people to have taxes saying that you must cut out like 70% of your emissions now or something, which could kill a whole business or an industry.
Yeah,
I'd rather have incentives. I'd rather go with incentives first before punishments, I guess you could say.
Right, and a lot of these companies don't live for that kind of stuff anyway. They will move. Most companies just find a way to move.
Yeah,
and it's the tricky part of being a good politician is realizing that you can lose a business entirely if you just treat them the wrong way, in a way.
Right.
You can force a company to move into an entirely different country and do business elsewhere, because it's and I mean
that's not good for us.
It's not necessarily good for the working populace, I guess. So as a politician, you need to be smart about what you want to do when you're tackling climate change, because climate change, like a lot of the big driver of climate change is industry, right? I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah. The major contributors to CO2 emissions and whatnot are the
farming
industry, farming, agribusiness, industries like that. And we've talked about this in our climate change video. I mean, it's kind of the same points, but still we can kind of reiterate them.
Yeah.
But I think we focused way too much on the on the general population.
Yeah.
Way too much, when we should really be focusing on industries and the people, the powers that be, that are the real cause behind these things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, you can recycle all the plastic that you've ever owned, but you're not going to even make a dent when it comes to reducing CO2 emissions compared to if you actually intercept the big industries, the agribusinesses, and those kind of people.
Yeah, so they need to talk to those people. And it's funny because a lot of these businesses end up getting subsidies anyway. Like the agribusiness gets subsidies from the U.S. because they get corn or ethanol subsidies just for growing corn and stuff. And yeah, man, it's tricky business. I think the government needs, since they're already in this, they already have their hands in like businesses in a way, meaning that the governments typically are subsidizing these big economies in some way, like oil and agribusiness. I mean, you can look this up. This is public information. It's on Wikipedia.
EPA will show it, I think.
Right. And nonetheless, Bernie should probably take a more pragmatic approach as to coming with clear incentives with businesses to make a positive impact, or maybe even scaling back. Because a lot of these, I think Obama tried to do this, but it was all meaningless in a way that it was sort of a promise to the federal government that they would do it, but
That's kind of what Bernie's
came of
answer
it.
sounds like to me too. It just sounds like talk with no
Right.
real like substance.
Right.
What did you think about him saying about maybe getting more jobs for people by implementing or by what would you call, I guess, like enhancing infrastructure, maybe with like
Yeah.
solar panels for apartment units and housing,
Yeah,
and then wind farms.
yeah. I mean, it's basically what is it? It's sort of similar to what Obama was doing, right? Which was
I'm not really familiar.
I think I want to say this was like one of his proposals was a green jobs proposal. He was trying to push for a sort of reallocation of funds so that he could create jobs. And of course, Republicans at the time thought it was a socialist sort of thing. I mean, it's sort of, I guess, the money's already taken. I mean, it's just he's sort of putting that money towards like jobs in a way.
Mm-hmm. Repartitioning it from like military spending or something.
I think so. I don't think there were any new taxes. I don't remember there being new taxes.
Okay.
Maybe not. I don't know. But
do you think that works? What's your take on it?
I think if you have to be smart about knowing how to allocate those funds, and especially with, I think a lot of us don't really care. I mean, we've been at war for 20 years, I think, at least, and a lot of us are kind of just like, what are we doing? And so it's like $1 trillion commitment when we could easily invest back. We can use some of that money to invest back into the country. I see
Right.
it. I see it.
So then it sounds like you agree with his remarks there.
I don't know. I'm opposed to any kind of new tax schema. I think the government needs to get better at optimizing.
Budget?
Optimizing
allocation
their
or-
budget and optimizing their bureaucracy. Like minimize the bureaucracy so that people don't have to spend money, because there's so many, all this stuff has to exchange so many hands.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like one of the arguments that, one of the arguments for UBI, Universal Basic Income, I think, is
And that's Yang's big
that's Yang's
platform.
big thing. We're not going to talk about it, but he's not the first one to say this. There are economists, like Nobel Prize winning economists, that say, well, in certain situations, like getting a lump sum of money from the government is better than just paying into a bureaucratic system, because imagine your whole dollar, you pay a whole dollar to the government, 40% of that goes into paying for the bureaucracy and the administration, and then like the other maybe 20 at the end of it all, after money is exchanged multiple times, 20% actually goes to welfare out of that whole dollar or something, so 20 cents.
So cut out those middlemen.
Yeah, and that's kind of my argument, where it's like I would agree with that sentiment, where it's like we need to think about how to maximize the amount of money we put back, like because the government gets a lot of money. It's like how does it? We need to be smart about how this money is being spent.
Okay. Yeah, I think I agree. So you're just basically saying, to sum it up, that government needs to optimize their ability to manage the budget by not wasting it frivolously on unnecessary exchanges of the money between people that just aren't. I'm already fucking this all up. That's interesting. You're saying change less hands, basically. Let's just say.
Yeah, and all that means practically is stop hiring stop hiring assistants to do this and that, and it's like, just like frivolous things.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the most embarrassing part of all this is so common in government that it's not even like a thing that they try to hide anymore. Like, what's his name? Who's in the cabinet? A HUD guy?
Oh, the black
in
guy?
Trump's cabinet, yeah.
The neurosurgeon. Ben Carson.
Yeah. The guy who talks like this. He talks like
Yeah, he's massively confused.
he talks like that guy Howard
Stern?
No. Terrence Howard.
Oh,
He kind of talks
Teriology?
Yeah. He kind of talks like him. It's kind of like he got caught like buying like a bunch of stuff for his office, and it was all frivolous stuff.
Oh yeah,
He was just
I saw
spending
that.
a bunch of money.
Right. And it's hilarious that he's even the housing of urban development guy. Trump heard urban and then assigned the black guy to the housing of urban development.
So ridiculous.
It has nothing to do with anything he's ever done.
It just, some of this is just comedy.
It is, man. This is like, you can't even write stuff like this.
I'm so disappointed.
We live in an Adam Sandler movie.
I literally ejected from the politics seat after Trump got elected. I was like, well, none of this means anything anymore.
Sequence initiated.
Yeah. None of this is really serious.
But anyway, did you, and Juan, I'm worried about that number on the screen. Did you like restart?
Yeah, it's because I
something?
pressed pause. I'm sorry.
What does that mean?
Nothing. It'll be fine.
Okay.
It's because I was going to press pause on the video and I pressed pause on the recording.
Oh, God, Juan.
Anyway, for you folks listening, I'm sorry. There's probably some audio stuff going on, but we figured it out.
Okay, good. Anyway, let's continue on. Let's do a Yang one.
Yeah, so Andrew Yang.
Do one of the H3 ones.
Oh, yeah, this one.
Yang gang.
So maybe we should talk about maybe we should talk about billionaires.
Yeah, it's a good clip. I like this one. It's
So-
not really science related,
No.
but it's like funding allocation. I think it's a question that a lot of people really are interested in, and it's one that I've always been interested in too. So
The 1%.
he's basically talking about how companies like Amazon and these giant industries can have zero taxes to pay at the end of the year. Like what's the process behind that and how they actually do it? And Yang gives some nice explanation behind that.
Yeah, Jeffrey Bezos has got to pay. He's got to pay his fair share. From Vermont, we have a saying. I don't know what the saying is, folks. I'm just riffing. I'm trying desperately to not have dead air, but here we go. Andrew Yang on Jeff Bezos, a millionaire.
And paying zero in taxes. And that's not unusual. They regularly pay zero in taxes.
I always hear that. I mean, I've been hearing that stat for so long.
How
right?
does it work? Because I feel like we became pretty successful, and the more we made, we pay more.
The more you pay.
We go,
I'm the same way.
I'm like, I go to my accountant, I'm like, hey, what's going on? I'm paying 50% taxes. I thought I was supposed to be paying like zero. And he laughs at me and says, oh, well, that's just for
that's like
billion-dollar
Apple.
companies that have fleets of accountants and lawyers.
Yup. Yeah, so I've been in the same boat. I ran a private company, and we also paid 40 to 50% in taxes quite regularly.
Yeah.
And so then you look up and you say, how the heck is Amazon paying zero in taxes?
Yeah.
I can explain it. Most of these tech companies are multinationals.
Mm-hmm.
So what they do is they move their profits and often their revenue to markets that have lower tax rates. You know one haven that everyone uses? Ireland. Right. Somehow all the money is going through Ireland.
So what does that mean practically? Okay, how do you operate a business chiefly in America and then somehow what does Ireland have to do with you not paying taxes?
With Amazon not paying taxes.
Yeah, or Amazon.
So Amazon has businesses all over the world, and so they can shift revenue and expenses through different divisions. The other thing is that...
But they can say our company in Ireland made $1 trillion or whatever?
Yeah,
more or less.
And that's just
and
all...
it's not
And people
fraud?
are... And you know, our
government is so dumb that goes
our
on.
oversight is just like, cool,
So
that's all good.
Yeah, if
Like
you
if
look
I
at
go
it-
to the IRS and be like, yeah, I deducted all of my money. I didn't make any money this year. And they're like, cool.
Another trick they use, which doesn't work for companies like ours, but works for Amazon, you can expense stock compensation of various types. So what they do is they look around. The other thing they can expense is they can expense various future regarding investments. So Amazon will look up and they'll literally look up and say, "Oh, it looks like we're gonna make some money this year. That's unacceptable. Let's take that extra couple $100 million or billion or whatnot and plow it into this new division."
So they buy Twitch.
Yeah, they can.
Right.
Or they can just say, let's pay our executives a ton in stock options. And guess what? That's an expense.
That's an expense. Oh, my God.
And so, and it makes us rich too, like, you know, score. So they'll look at it and there are different ways they can get the taxes down to zero.
Complicated, you know, because it just seems so stupidly simple. And I've been hearing this for what seems like my whole life. Yet, how is it possible that nobody has been able to get taxes from these huge companies.
Well, that's what we need to change. And so when people look around and
but
say,
is it that easy? Because I've been hearing that like my whole life. I mean, what's different about you?
A lot of it is that I'm not owned by any corporate masters. We have 160,000 plus donors, and the average donation in our campaign is only $26. So I joke our fans in the Yang Gang, thank you, Yang Gang, are even cheaper than Bernie's fans. So I don't owe any lobbyists any, backroom favors.
Is that it? It's just lobbying?
A lot of it's lobbying.
And then you have Congress people who are being lobbied. Right.
Corporate money has completely overrun our politics. Mm-hmm. There are a few independent legislators, but in this legislative body of hundreds of bought and sold legislators, you have a few people. Washington, D.C. chews up and spits out idealists.
We're going to get into a little bit of more of like the nitty-gritty of politics, but as far as Andrew is concerned, I think he's just saying that the tax policy is in such a way where it benefits people like billionaires like Jeff Bezos or companies, multinational corporations and stuff. Mm-hmm. To benefit them in such a way where they don't have to pay any taxes.
Right.
Trump was right. I think he said that if you paid zero taxes, that makes you smart as a business. And it does.
Yeah, it does.
As a business. I'm not being facetious at all.
But I guarantee you, Trump's not the guy who knows how to do that.
No,
his dad set that whole system up.
Right. Trump is a guy who has businesses fail.
Yeah, he's on his fifth or sixth bankruptcy.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I've heard things that he will try to get a good deal most of the time. He'll try to find ways to do it cheaper and stuff. He's not. But
I know he's a big boy.
But cheap isn't good in certain aspects. You know what I'm saying? Cheap isn't good in say if you're trying to run NASA or something. Cheap isn't something that you want.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think Trump is not as clever as people think he is.
No, I mean I'm not giving the guy that much credit, but as far as you running a business or if you're running a corporation, yeah, of course you don't want to pay anything in taxes.
Yeah, that's true.
The thing is, I think
your fleet of accountants, like Yang said, will take care of that.
I think if you're a presidential candidate, like I was kind of saying before with Bernie, you need to create the right incentives for these companies to feel like they have, it's almost like it's worth paying into, taxes. In some way,
yeah,
because companies don't. I feel like there's they like to avoid
paying taxes because they don't think the money's probably used properly.
Probably,
I have a feeling that's probably true.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, because
a business probably knows that they can use the money much more wisely than a government does, because governments are always changing hands with different people. Like you said earlier, they don't know how to manage money properly. There's too many people trying to control it, so they already know it's going to be a mismanagement of their money anyway, so why not just invest it back into the business, which is probably much better suited to their interests anyway.
I mean, if you want to talk about businesses as rational agents, if this is a game theory situation, the most rational decision is going to be that paying zero taxes.
Right.
I think, like I'm saying, we need to incentivize it in such a way where they maybe would feel inclined to pay, and maybe give certain. How would you say? I don't know. Maybe proper incentives, not something that's totally out of the realm of possibility. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that would be. I don't know how that would look like.
Yeah, I'd like but I think it's going to be having to do with a way where businesses are going to want to get rid of the money themselves willingly to government. For taxes somehow.
I mean, now we kind of do that in a way that was if you give money, that's a tax break.
Yeah.
If you make donations, that's a tax break.
Right.
I think you can write it off. But as far as
I'm kind of with the businesses, honestly.
What do you mean?
Their methodology of keeping the money within the business, because you just know. From what we've all seen with government, I mean, they're just like chickens with their heads cut off. They don't know how to actually partition things properly.
But this is not to say that this is to me a feature of the way government is run today.
Yeah.
And it's not a bug. It's like intentional that it's like that because, I mean, just the way it's structured, there's too many, it's disjointed. There's no clear communication sometimes between certain departments and like the IRS, or it's kind of an independent agency from, I mean, it is from like, say the EPA or something, or whatever. Like they're all independent from each other, and they never.
But are you saying it's a useful feature or a bad feature?
I'm thinking it's the bureaucracy is a bad feature. I'm saying.
I see. Yeah.
Like lubricating these things and making it run more efficiently in a way I think would probably be better if you want to talk about, or just even a feature where it's like, you know where your tax money is going.
Right. Right.
Like say. Okay, because a lot of these businesses, they use a lot of the infrastructure. You, as a business, you should feel like you need to contribute to using the infrastructure. You use the roads because you pay for cars to especially Amazon. You hire, UPS drivers or whatever to deliver your stuff and drive on roads that are all being paid for by tax money, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're using gasoline that's regulated by, certain standards because of the EPA.
Mm-hmm.
You're paying for that too, but it's also esoteric. You just give a blank check to the government and then they do whatever they want with it. I think.
Right.
I think in a nation, the market is so. Right now, the standard of the market right now is to have subscription-based things where everything is itemized and you're paying. You know what you're paying for.
Right.
Like there's no a la carte stuff anymore. Like cable is kind of like, whatever. I'm not going to pay for this bullshit channel that I don't see.
Yeah.
I think that mindset is slowly creeping into politics.
That would be nice.
Where it's like I think we want to know what our money is going to.
I see. But then then it's just going to be a big part of the pie chart. It's just other. You'd be like, okay, you itemized it, but other doesn't really tell me anything.
I would hope not. But then you need those kind of statistics because then that tells you how that money is being allocated.
Yeah.
And if it's being allocated properly, because you can get and I'm not anti-government. I'm anti-abuse of government.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can get into these situations where, and I've known people like this. They know, or you hear stories about this all the time, where it's somebody gets hired because they're friends with someone, and they're contracted to do something, and they just some people drag their feet.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's just like a system where they're getting paid, and it's kind of like a revolving door kind of situation. Where
it's wasting resources.
It's wasting resources. Yeah. And anyway.
Cool. Should we go on to another clip?
Yeah.
Who should we do next? Let's try to get another guy in. We got a bunch of Yang.
So, Terence actually wanted to talk about this guy, Tom Steyer.
Yeah, that's Bloomberg though, right there.
Oh, that's Bloomberg?
Yeah, so
No, this is Tom Steyer.
That's not Tom Steyer.
Yeah. Right
is
here.
it?
This guy, yeah.
Okay.
Terence is racist. He sees a white guy and he sees. He's like, oh, it looks like one guy. So Tom Steyer, back to climate change.
Okay, I kind of like the clip with Tom Steyer and Breakfast a little better. Let's do that one instead.
Okay.
Just because it's again not really science related, but I like it because it addresses something I think is important.
Which is the billionaire's comment?
Yeah, the billionaire's comment.
All right. So this is Tom Steyer. He's on the Breakfast Club, not the movie.
So one thing about Tom Steyer is he is a self-made billionaire, just like Bloomberg. He was responsible for hedge funds, I believe, and made a bunch of money just by doing that. And now he basically funds most of his campaign, so he pays for I think almost all the advertising, if not all of it. And of course, he was another one of these guys who came in later in the race. Didn't want to come in, but then felt like he was obligated to come in since he wasn't too excited about the lineup of Democratic nominees.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here we go, folks.
Believe in civil rights. It's because I want to be a decent person and stand up for what's right.
I got a homegirl who says, her name is Miko. She says that it's impossible for a billionaire to be a decent human being. It's impossible to make that kind of money and be a decent human being. And you refer to yourself as a decent human being.
I sure hope so. Look,
She said you have to step on people. You have to cut throats on the way up to make that
that's
kind
not
of
true.
money.
I don't think that's
That's
true.
not true. What really, I would put it a different way, which is this. You don't. The question is, does the money change you? It's not a question of what did you do to get the money. I invested money, in a good way.
And
worked.
Okay.
Successfully. The question is, does having the money become this thing to you that you take so seriously that then you start being a horse's ass, like a selfish person focused on him or herself?
You lose your compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah, your empathy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does it separate you from people? Look, one of the things that's been true. Look, I said I did 50 impeachment town halls. That means going around and looking people in the eye and listening to what's going on with them. And I'll tell you a story about running for president. One of the early primary states is South Carolina.
That's where I'm from.
And I was down there in a place called Denmark, South Carolina.
Know it very well.
Overwhelmingly African-American, poor, rural place.
That's where my guy Bakari from.
And they don't have a water treatment facility.
Yep.
Which means there are people getting sick and dying because the water's terrible. So I went down there because I'm a clean water person. That's been something we've worked on in California for years. It's always located in communities just like this. And I went and had dinner with the activists from Denmark, South Carolina. If you meet them, they're in a tough spot and they're unbelievably great. They're idealistic. They're working hard through the system. They're optimistic in really tough times. And you learn something. You're asking me, can you be a good person and be rich? And my answer is, depends who you hang with.
All right.
And
Depends
so
what you do with your money.
Yeah, so I thought that was important just because it's like I think a lot of people, especially a lot of people on the left, have this giant misconception that you have to be a fucking conniving, Dr. Evil person to be a billionaire.
Yeah.
And I think that's not really a good, accurate portrayal of the billionaire mindset. I think a lot of billionaires are good guys, and actually probably a lot of them are really suited for running large corporations in the best way because they are compassionate. So
if they're compassionate.
Yeah. And I think a lot of them can, get there that way.
I mean, I don't know. I think it depends. It depends on the structure of the organization, too.
Yeah. And the thing is, it can be a runaway effect because maybe they might have started good and then it got off the rails when, it changed people. But a lot of self-made millionaires, I'm getting more and more convinced these days that, I mean, you don't have to step on anyone to get to that level.
I think anybody could be a millionaire. Now, a billionaire, that's a tough one.
Yeah. That's a high level.
Yeah, I think millionaires are a lot more common than people think.
Yeah. Sure, you could be a normal person and be a millionaire in California.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, I've known people back home, I guess in my hometown, that whose parents are, they're pretty much effectively, their parents are, on paper, the parents are millionaires. Like, they have assets that put them in that category.
Yeah. I don't think that's very unachievable for a normal person in middle class.
In their lifetime, yeah. I mean, it's about accumulating money and assets and stuff and knowing how to put that money. Like, the thing is, like, I'm a poor person, I'm probably not going to have money until I get a real job.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm poor too, so.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, it's possible, but the fact of the matter is, it's becoming a billionaire. I think it does take a lot more. I can see why people would feel so removed, or have a certain character image of what a billionaire would be like, because it just seems so out of reach.
Right. It seems like a hoarder of money.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting that impression from him, Tom Steyer, or Bloomberg.
Yeah. There are a couple of guys like John Mackey. I think he's the guy who, the founder of Whole Foods. He calls for this sort of, he calls it ethical capitalism or something, or ethical business, where he thinks, and there's economists that have had this idea where no one hates capitalism more than capitalists.
Right.
Yeah, it's because it's like they don't like the competition. They don't like that feature, and so they put legislation in place to kind of like make it. Where
That's the snake version.
And yeah, that's what people see. They see the conniving kind of capitalist guy who doesn't like the competition, puts regulations in place, lobbies for regulation to kind of squash the
like
middle,
a Comcast,
squash a little guy. Yeah, like the Comcasts of the world.
Yeah.
And
fuck Comcast, pieces of shit.
And Time Warner Cable, you know, all those people. Yeah, it's those are the kind of people that give billionaires, I think, or these big corporations a bad name.
Yeah,
and it's rightfully so. It's kind of their own fault.
Yeah, makes sense because they basically have accepted the fact that they can do that and they abuse their power.
Yeah.
So I get why people have that perception too, but I want to at least give people some kind of understanding that this is not a black and white issue. All billionaires are not evil, just like all people are not evil or good or whatever. It's always a gray, right?
Yeah.
So and that's why I like these candidates, and I don't want people to just immediately turn off or tune out because they're like, oh, he's a billionaire, next.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I think if you are still undecided, I would definitely urge you to look into Tom Steyer's policies.
Why is that?
And just what he's done as a person. I just think he's a very a good candidate. I like what I see from him. I probably like him more than any of the other candidates. I'm still between him and Bloomberg, but they're very close for me. And yeah, I just would urge you to check him out. I usually go to a website called ontheissues.org. That's one of my favorite websites to go to actually learn about people's policy ideas and what they think about certain issues.
Yeah.
And then you can just go and check and see what you agree with them one by one. And it shows you their history and how consistent they've been. And it even gives you a political compass to show what their position on the political spectrum is. And like Tom Steyer and Bloomberg almost match very closely, and they also match really closely to what my political ideologies are.
Interesting.
So, and those are I know a lot of people say like, oh, but they can't win. You know, they came in late and they're kind of like these, like the term you use is dark horse. I mean, I think that's giving up early, and I think that you should just go with the people who you think represent you the best.
Yeah.
And for me, like I'm now getting to the point where I'm just going to start voting for the people who I actually think deserve the election, not just who I think can win. Yeah.
Well, I commend you, my friend.
Thank you
for being principled. And I've given up on being a principled man.
You're going in with the
pragmatist.
The pragmatic.
Yeah. It's a little bit. I get it. Politics is not about. I get it now. Politics is not about principle, man. You know, it's a little bit. Right. I mean, no, I agree with you.
It's kind of true.
As far as electing a candidate in this race. So if you're not familiar with American politics, we do a sort of. Maybe we should have done this in the beginning, but the idea is that right now these are all candidates that are from the Democratic Party in the U.S. and they're running, and the left. I guess that's kind of their policies. And typically what happens is the Republicans, they don't concede any, they don't challenge the sitting president if it's a Republican.
There are Republicans running.
Right. But I mean, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, probably not, but they are running. I actually included a link of the candidates. If you want to go to it, we can take a look.
Yeah. So this will give you a good overview of what the politics is like here.
What's
in
the
America.
website again?
This is a New York Times. It's just you can search who's running for president in 2020.
They're going to put it on the video.
Oh, they're going to what?
I said maybe I can put it on the video.
Oh yeah. So so far running, right? So there are 3 Republicans running: Walsh, Bill Weld. I can't believe he's still running for whatever. And then Trump. So Trump is the incumbent. He's more than likely going to just continue. This is just politics.
I don't know if it's ever changed in the history of anything.
No, I think the incumbent's been more than
always
likely the incumbent always wins.
Yeah.
And typically wins the election. Typically.
Yeah. But I guess they're trying.
Yeah.
You know?
So, but there are 12 Democrats still in the race. There's Michael Bennet, Joe Biden, Michael Bloomberg, Pete Buttigieg, Delaney. I forget his name. First name, whatever.
Some guy.
Tulsi Gabbard, Amy Klobuchar, Patrick. I don't know who that is. Wow, I've never seen him before.
He might have just joined.
Bernie, and then Tom Steyer, Elizabeth Warren, and Andrew Yang. So,
and that's in alphabetical order, not in terms of any like percentages of
right
of polling numbers.
Right. So yeah, it's I mean, yeah.
Yeah, if you click on their faces too, it kind of can give you even a little bit overview of anybody.
So as far as his name is Duvall. So anyway, what I wanted to give you an overview of for folks like across the sea or that are international listeners, the American system is in a way where the Democrats pick their candidate to go up against Trump, the sitting incumbent.
And it's been an insane turnout. Like these numbers of people who have signed up is like unprecedented.
Yeah, there's so many.
I don't know if there's ever been this many.
Yeah,
a turnout.
Yeah, my next door neighbor is running.
Seriously,
like
man,
that, dude, I know.
Feels like that.
Feels
You're like, oh, another person just joined the race. Okay.
Yeah. It's
yeah, Trump has really brought out the best in in people's ability to want to do something though. You gotta give him that.
Yeah. And who's the youngest candidate to run, do you think?
I believe it's Buttigieg.
Really?
Yeah. I think if you click on his profile, it might even say that.
He looks like a clone. He looks like he was made in a lab or something. 38. He looks like he was made in a laboratory. Pete Buttigieg to run.
He's he's not the guy for me.
Yeah.
Not the guy for me. He's supposed to be a mayor of his city and is kind of neglecting all of his duties right now too, which is also a really bad look.
Same can be said
for a leader of a nation.
Same can be said for Bloomberg. Terence.
Is he still the mayor?
Yep.
Oh. Bloomberg has
I'm kidding.
Successfully up to New York.
I'm not here to argue any of this. So yeah. Oh man. These allergies are killing me, man.
Yeah, I know. I hear it.
I'm just buddy. Anyway, so they go. The Democrats have to pick the candidate, and as far as advice for some of you early listeners, younger listeners, don't concede your pick. Like, pick the person you want to see. If you're registered Democrat, have to actually look at the state that you're in and see if you have to register as a Democrat.
Especially for the primaries.
Yeah, for the primaries, and see. Well, even the election for like selecting who the Democratic candidate is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you affiliate yourself with the party that you're going to vote somebody for.
Yeah, I actually got a letter just the other day stating that I need to change my party because I'm registered as an independent.
Yeah.
And I can't vote in the primary if I don't change to a set party.
Yeah.
Which I don't like that.
Some states have that. Now, the state that we live in has that, but you have to look at your own, where you live, and see if they have open primaries or closed primaries. We live in a state, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we have a closed primary state, so we have to declare our party affiliation before we vote for the person we want to represent the party. So make sure you do that. Make sure that you're able to select the person that you want to win the most. You know, like Terence is saying, he's probably going to pick either Tom or Bloomberg, depending on how the wind is that day.
Well, I got to study up some more on these guys.
Yeah. So try to do that, and after that, it's the big boy game, which is Trump versus the candidate, and so that's when you'll, if you're all like, for some of you overseas listeners, that'll be the big one. That's really the big election where they go head to head and really battle it out. So,
let's get Bloomberg on here real quick before we have to.
And Bloomberg. Okay, so Bloomberg. Here we go. So this is Michael
This is
Bloomberg.
some on climate change.
Yeah, politics and job. Whoa, this is a long one.
Yeah, but we can just watch the few beginning. The second half isn't even really that much about climate change, so we can just stop it whenever we feel, All
right, so this is Terrence's pick, Michael Bloomberg. Let's see what he has to say.
people here by now, Mike, should know how passionate and serious you are about the threat of climate change. In fact, as some of you will be aware, you just wrote a book about it with Carl Pope, Climate of Hope. President Trump just withdrew the United States from the Paris Accord. Tell us about the conversations you've had in the days since then with fellow leaders in business and in government. Are they as angry as you are?
Well, I think there are three big problems that the world has to worry about. One is climate change, because you can destroy every living thing. Two is nuclear war, which has come back on the radar because of North Korea. You could destroy an awful lot of the world. And three, job destruction from technology, which is destabilizing the world. Climate change is something it's easy to do something about because we know how to do it. I don't know what you do about North Korea. I don't know what you do about creating jobs, at least the number that we're going to need around the world. But climate change, if you stop putting crap into the air is not going to, the planet's not going to absorb as much heat from the sun. It will reflect more off, and the temperature won't go up. And unfortunately, you get in this cycle of the higher the temperature, the less reflection there is because the ice caps melt and all that sort of stuff. I don't know why Trump did what he did. He changed his mind, and there's nothing wrong with changing your mind. I think it's a sign of somebody that's willing to learn and intelligent if you find that you made a mistake and you want to do something different. In this case, he didn't have to stick to his word because he's got a pattern of changing a lot of things. He could have gotten away with sort of fudging it and letting us stay in the Paris Agreement because the polls are overwhelmingly around the world and across America in favor of doing something about climate change. Over the last 5 years, it's gone from most people or a lot of people not believing that climate change is happening or not thinking that it's man-made to, yes, it's happening, we got to do something about it. And why have they changed? Because they see pictures of the ice caps melting. You see pictures of these big swaths of trees through the Rockies all dead because the beetles killed them, beetles that used to get killed with colder winters, not the oceans, the storms. We have droughts where we used to have floods, and floods where we used to have droughts and that sort of thing. And it's really hard to find very many people outside of those that have a big vested interest in not doing something to support what Trump did. ExxonMobil is advertising to do something about climate change. They're the biggest energy producer, arguably polluter, if you want to go downstream, in the country and maybe the world, and certainly the country. And if they're in favor of doing it, what's the advantage for Trump to do it? And everybody that I've talked to has said, whether they're governors or mayors or people in industry or individuals, why on earth did he do this, and is there something we can do without him? And the truth of the matter is the United States is halfway towards its COP21 goals already. We don't have to get there, at least according to the agreement, until 2025, although the earlier you get there, the better it is. But the truth of the matter is we're halfway there already, no thanks to our federal government. Obama basically did a few things, some regulative stuff that can easily be rolled back or not really followed. But the federal government didn't do anything. The state governments didn't do anything. The reason we're halfway to our goals is because local governments and corporations and individuals have brought down the amount of stuff we put in the air, mainly through forcing the closure of half of all the coal-fired power plants in America. And that made an enormous difference. We're the only industrial country in the world that has done anything so far. Some of them are starting, but nobody is remotely close to where we are in terms of accomplishments. And so for the president to walk away from it, number one, it's not going to make that much difference. We will still continue to go and get coal-fired power plants to close and get people to paint their roofs white so they use less energy in cooling their house and get more fuel-efficient cars and all of those kinds of things.
Yeah. I mean, the kind of interesting thing about all this is, first of all, Michael Bloomberg, not the impression I had of him. I thought he was a different guy.
Oh.
So I actually, I like, he seems even keeled.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest test for all of politics is, does he look like a president?
What do you think? Do you look presidential to you?
No, not really.
He looks like a businessman.
He looks like a businessman. He looks like he's gonna,
I like that though, because businessmen know how to actually solve things.
Yeah, it looks like he's gonna lie to you about aspartame in your drink and tell you it's not cancerous or something.
Well, he's a guy who started his own media technology company. I forget the name of it.
Literally Bloomberg.
Is it called Bloomberg?
Yeah, literally Bloomberg.
It's Bloomberg LP or something like that. Yeah. He's legit though. Legit, at least at starting businesses. He's been kind of praised and hated in New York.
Yeah,
because he's responsible for stop and frisk.
Racist.
But he's also cleaned up the city in unprecedented levels and turned them around from a $5 billion deficit to a $4 billion surplus. So he definitely is a guy who knows how to get things done and knows how to handle large systems and make the decisions and put the pieces in place to actually get things done in that situation. So I think if there's anybody qualified, it's probably he seems the most qualified, even over Steyer to me.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of candidates. They don't really differ that much. A lot of them don't really differ that much amongst policy and stuff. It really comes down to very little things. I mean, the one I think that differs the most is probably Joe Biden, as far as
oh, sorry.
As far as a couple things drug policy and stuff. That this is stuff. I mean, it depends on where your values align.
What is his drug policy?
No, he's anti legalization of stuff.
Well, I think actually Bloomberg is anti-legalization as well.
He?
Yeah.
Boo.
He's a boomer, but I don't really give a fuck, honestly. I'm just trying to get the actual important things fixed.
Right.
It just means you won't get things legalized this year, but he's not gonna add any policies on top of what is,
Yeah, to me,
we've got more important fish to fry.
Sure, but I mean, to me, this is a bit more about how your mind operates.
Yeah, I agree.
It tells me more about how analytical you are.
Right. Well, it's how out of touch or in touch you are.
Right.
Yeah, he's out of touch in that sector. I'll say for sure.
Right. But
Tom Steyer is, I think, pro legalization.
Yeah. Well,
don't quote me though, because I don't remember if that's true.
Yeah, I mean, Bloomberg looks like he can be convinced of certain things, but nonetheless, I think he I mean, he's giving compelling. He's saying he's not lying. He was basically saying Obama didn't do enough, and a lot of environmentalists. I used to be and
he's a pretty big proponent of Obama, actually.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I'm the one who told everybody to vote for Obama.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and I liked him.
Me too.
I liked him, but I was a huge environmentalist and stuff, and I guess I still am, but I'm a lot more pragmatic now. But the fact of the matter is that he's saying we're not doing enough, and I would agree. Climate change is a real issue. The issue is also convincing other nations that I think he's right. We're probably the one nation that
has politicized this issue.
Well, not true, but also polluted the least, I think.
Oh yeah,
out of all
I think China's number one.
Yeah,
I think Russia's above us as well. So China's a big factor, right? They're really killing it with the pollution. And you know how their regulations go and things. They barely have any kind of laws for anything with industry.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a challenge for sure.
The issue is that developing nations have a problem because they need that cheap source of fuel. They need coal. They need really dirty forms of energy that are cheap to meet their energy demands.
Mm-hmm.
Because these countries are poor, and so there's a huge population and stuff like that, and and so they're probably going to be the biggest polluters. But the issue is that if you force these, you're not going to force these nations to pull back, but they're not going to want to pull back, because then that would mean their lifestyle is already going to be even more pushed back into.
Right. And if anything, China's accelerating.
Yeah. And I mean, China's. I heard that they're trying to do certain things to move into like green energy and stuff, and that's smart. But they're trying to. How would you say? They're trying to become competitive in the world market, especially with the U.S. They're just trying to be more, you know.
They're trying to catch up to our level of industry.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you're not gonna do that unless you really just do it and use cheap forms of energy. You don't give a crap about your people and standards of regulations and stuff. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty bad.
You know, I thought it was interesting that Bloomberg actually was talking about ExxonMobil is interested in curtailing climate change now, because they were one of the people when we did the video last time. They were one of the ones responsible for all of the anti-climate change propaganda that was released, and funded those organizations to actually talk against climate change. So I guess they're trying to save face now. I thought that was interesting though, because I didn't realize that they actually had flipped now.
It's bad for your brand.
Yeah, probably.
It's bad for your brand. And BP had this huge thing. I think after the BP oil spill back in like 2009, 2010, I remember seeing BP like disappearing, like gas stations disappearing.
Really?
Yeah. They just
I didn't
such a
go to
nosedive.
BP at all for that. I was like, oh, fuck these fuckers.
Yeah, they just took such a nosedive. And I mean, at the time I lived in Texas, which is like right off the Gulf. And yeah, it was. Yeah,
I do remember going out of my way not to go to BP gas stations.
Yeah, man.
After that,
and they disappeared. British Petroleum, bye bye. Go back.
Good.
To,
Get back to Brits out of here again.
Yeah. So they. I think they obviously took a hit. I think Exxon is starting.
Just
to learn.
kidding, Brits. By the way, don't take offense.
Yeah, no, but there, I think companies, the smartest thing to do is to be allies in this.
Yeah, but then I'm thinking, since it's a political issue, they can just be on the conservative side.
What do you mean?
Because conservatives are the ones who mostly deny climate change, correct?
Right.
So I'm surprised that they actually would take a hit from that, because then conservatives would just be like, "Oh, this is our company."
I don't get it.
Or they won't care if ExxonMobil supports climate change policies, because they're against climate change.
Right. Well,
policy.
Here's the thing: a lot of these companies, I think, they buddy up to legislators because they also want to write the policy.
And I think also it's a good point, because I think Bloomberg he mentioned just when we were watching that that more people are believing in climate change now. So perhaps the people that believe has outweighed the people that don't, to the point now where ExxonMobil actually has to step in and say, okay, we're for it too now.
I mean, I can guarantee that in the past 10 years, there have been people my age, people our age that.
And the Gen Zers, I think too. The Gen Z people seem really all about climate change.
Yeah. And I mean,
we've got Greta, of course, you know.
Yeah. I mean, with our generation, right? Like, we're millennials, and we're like, we're right in the middle of that age group, I think. And so we definitely grew up being environmentally conscious and stuff. So naturally, I think a lot of us that are coming into the workforce, where we're now affecting how the marketing strategy for the companies are and what their values are, so it makes sense.
Cool. Well, I got the hiccups now, so let's go ahead and end this.
So we're going to have to wrap this up. Sorry
You're
for this.
swiping your nose.
I'm
I got
dying.
the hiccups now.
I'm dying over here with allergies and stuff. I thought I escaped this madness when I came here. When I moved states, I didn't think I was going to see cedar again, but
you got a stack of tissues now.
Man, somebody's going to think I had a fun time. But
fat.
Anyway, folks, any sort of question?
Final question. Oh, let's ask. Who was your favorite person in the video? You don't have to necessarily endorse your vote, but who did you guys like from the video that we showed? Or if you're a Trumper, give us some arguments why you like him.
Or give us.
I don't think we have any Trump supporters. Probably
not.
Probably not. I mean, we talk shit about him. So,
or maybe a candidate that you think might be worth looking into. Because we only talked about a couple that we thought were interesting.
Right. Yeah.
That run the circuit or run the gamut, so to say. And yeah, just sound off in the comments.
All right.
Thank you, folks, for making it this far.
Thank you, guys.
Surviving. You know, I darted for the restroom because I was starting to leak. And I desperately need
you were leaking the whole time.
Yeah, I was. I should have taken a Zyrtec or something.
Yeah.
But here I am, still standing. And leave a comment, like, subscribe, share. Visit our social platforms. TikTok,
Eigenbros 2, Twitter at Eigenbros, Eigenbros.com, and then we got Instagram at Eigenbros.
Yeah, so check those out, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time, guys.